I am very proud to welcome to our stage today to talk to you, Dr. Constance. Take it away, Dr. Constance, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the warm introduction. I am super excited on this Saturday because I get to share with you all something I'm super passionate about. And even though she talked about my accolades in finance, I love, love, love everything about money and numbers. I'm a geek in that way. But I also understand that there are challenges that we face as entrepreneurs or small business owners, however you classify yourself. And even though most people come to me because they have some kind of burning challenge that they're experiencing in their life or in their business, and they're looking for all the answers, right? They're looking for the solution so that they can get better in their life and in their business. And oftentimes I'll get people that say, what's the best stock right now? What should I be investing my money in? What should I be doing with my retirement account? And, how do I scale my business, Dr. Constance? And yes, I want to be able to provide those answers, those solutions for my clients, and I do. But what I have understood about my 44 years of being on this earth, one, and nearly 15 years of being an entrepreneur, is that I understand that we don't always have to have all the answers to be able to make an impact in the lives of others, to be able to chart a new trajectory for our own lives. And I know that life has a bit of challenges that come with it. And one of the gospel artists that I absolutely love shared a quick story a few days ago. And he made a comment about being wounded winners. Wounded winners. And I thought that that was like a weird thing to say when you're thinking about successful entrepreneurship or successful people in any lane of brilliance. But it is the reality that we don't always get all the answers before we need to move forward, that we don't always get to be fixed, if there's such a thing. We don't always get to be healed before we move forward in our life, with our relationships, with our business, with our money. And so I wanted to talk with you really quickly today about what it takes to be an unlikely winner, like I am, or even a wounded winner, if you consider yourself to be that. They always talk about the financial fundamentals, and that is one of the things that I teach on a routine basis, right? The rule of 72 as it relates to compound interest, the wealth formula as it relates to how you'll be able to duplicate and multiply the principal that you've placed in an account. Even dollar cost averaging, some of us know as it relates to investing in the world. But do they talk with you about what resilience is? If your account has multiple figures in it, does it indicate that you have been able to be resilient in your mind so that you can move forward in your life and in your business? See, that's one of my first tips to you today as a business owner, an entrepreneur, is that we've got to learn how to use resilience in our lives as one of the key elements to building wealth, as one of the key elements to staying in business and even scaling in business. I touched on earlier that, you look at me, you hear the bio, and you think, wow, that's a successful woman. And I received that. I thank you. But as I said, I'm an unlikely winner because I grew up in poverty in the States in Maryland, to a young single mom who I watched struggle to figure out womanhood, marriage, and parenting. And what she used to tell us was, I want you to be better than me. I want you to go farther than me. And we used to think, well, what's possibly better than my mom, right? What's possibly better than you? But what she was saying was, when life hits you, you get yourself back up. When things happen that you don't understand in your life and in business, you keep pushing forward and you heal along the way. See, my first tip is that you have to decide, make up in your mind that you are already a winner in life and in business. There's a quote that says, as a man thinks, so is he. You want to stand up straight, push your shoulders back, and know that what you've set out to do in this life, you will accomplish. But it will not come without challenges. It will not come without circumstances, such as not having access to capital in your business, not having all the supporters that you thought you might have when you launched that business. You had that ribbon cutting. What I know about resilience, it is the mental fortitude that it takes to stay focused in your business. That was my first. Decide that you are a winner and use your mental resilience to push forward. The other thing I know about winners in entrepreneurship is that you've got to do something, right? You can't just sit around and say, hey, I want to have, the best product or service in my local area. You have to actually put some action behind what it is that you say that you want to do and that you want to be. Hey, I'm not talking to the choir here. I know that if you're already in business, especially longer than 3 to 5 years, that some of these things you already know. I understand that repetition is the mother of all learning. So I am here to remind you on this Saturday that success in business is not just about how many zeros are in your bank account, how well your retirement plan is going. It is about the resilience that it takes mentally to create an idea, take that thought, and turn it into something tangible. That tangible thing being your product, that tangible thing being your service. But I know if you don't have the mental fortitude, the resilience, the mental get up and go, that you'll be closing your doors like some of the other businesses may have had to do, especially during the pandemic. My first was decide that you're a winner. My second is you have to do something. Act like a winner. What do winners do? If you ever question that, they invest in themselves. They invest in themselves. It's going to cost you something to be successful. It might be financial. It might be some sleep. It might cost you some peace. It might cost you some time, but you have to do something in order to win in business. See, there's a thing called perseverance. And I know that oftentimes we get these words interchanged, resilience, perseverance, but the resilience is the strength of your mind. And the perseverance is the actions that you do when life hits you. It's how you get up and go. It's how you push forward in life when your clients aren't paying their invoices, when your partners aren't coming to the table with all the resources that they said they would, when family can't always support like they showed that they would in the beginning. See, perseverance is not a long race. It's many short races, one after another. That's a quote from Walter Elliott. Again, perseverance is not a long race. It's many short races, one after another. When I think about what winners do, right, they decide that they're going to win. And they actually do the things that winners do, such as investing in themselves and pushing forward when things get tough. But what I also know is we like to duplicate ourselves. We like to get around other winners. We like to get around people who challenge us to shoot for our very best. Those people that are in your corner saying, yes, I hear what you say and I see what you do, but I know that there's more inside of you. Those champions, right? They say birds of a feather flock together. That is true. My third is to duplicate, create more winners around you. Look at competition as not a bad thing because those people around you should be pushing you to your best ever. They say that iron sharpens iron. Even Michael Jordan said that talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. So when I say decide that you are a winner, absolutely. Using perseverance, your mental strength to do and get up when things get tough. You got to do something as an entrepreneur that pushes you to your next. And you have to duplicate yourself. Get around other winners, other entrepreneurs who understand the language of what it takes when you take an idea, turn it into a thought, put the action behind and actualize it, and you have a physical, tangible business that is up and running. See, everyone doesn't understand what it takes to go from idea to fruition, but you do. You absolutely do. And you must get around people who understand that iron sharpens iron. See, I'm not challenging you because I want to compete and I want to win at all costs. I'm challenging you because I know that you are already a winner and you need winners around you that are going to show you, even on a Saturday when you could be doing anything else with your day, that we are here together at this particular moment at the Global Speakers Summit, the Global Speakers Talk, to challenge one another to be resilient, to be a persevering person, and to get around other people who win. Yeah, we can talk about all the financial fundamentals. We will do that. But what I want to impress upon you is the same grit that it took for you to take that idea and turn it into fruition. Is that same grit, resilience, perseverance, and champion mindset that it is going to take you to scale that business and win. I challenge you to take notes today as all the other speakers flood the stage. They will be challenging you to not just personally develop, but professionally develop. That's why we're here. That's what winners do. We push ourselves, we continue to be avid learners, and we get around other people who have a winning mindset. I am Dr. Constance Craig Mason. I thank you for the time, for allowing me to speak about my passion, which is not just finance, but how to help you become a wounded winner, an unapologetic winner, an unlikely winner, but nonetheless a winner. Thank you for the time.
That was wonderful, Dr. Constance. Thank you so much for kicking us off with such a motivational start to our summit. I hope that everyone at home was taking notes. And if you're watching the replay, don't forget to put #replay and give us your comments and your takeaways from Dr. Constance today, as well as those who are live. I was blown away by that. There was so much to take from it, but your main points really were the resilience, the perseverance, the grit you have to have, getting around winners who are winners, and you have the mindset of a winner from the get-go, and just be that champion that you are. I just thought that was incredible, wonderful, wonderful motivation to start us off. And I cannot wait to see what else is coming. I love that quote you shared as well, Dr. Constance, about, I loved all of the quotes, but the one about taking the small races, the short races, one after the other. I think it was perseverance is not a short race. It is many short
races. It's not a long race. It's many short races along the way. Absolutely.
That's amazing, because that is absolutely true, isn't it? Because you know, you're overcoming, you're that champion mindset, that winner in the room, and you need to get with your tribe, your people who and not the wrong people who are going to bring you down, or perhaps not push you up, shall we say, in a more positive way. So yeah, be around those people who've done it, who are doing it, who are behind you to do it. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance. That was great.
Thank you.
Any questions from the panel very quickly? And I'm just checking to see if we have any questions here. I think we are good for now. We'll see if any come up, and we will move on and see who our next speaker is. Thank you again, Dr. Constance. We're very glad you're here today. Let's have a look. We've got, just 1 second. We have Carla coming up next. Carla Cohen, and she has worked hard to achieve her success. In Hollywood. She worked hard to achieve her success in Hollywood, but she then experienced a sudden and debilitating illness, which then left her bedridden for 2 years. And this life-altering experience led her to seek healing and to embark on a journey of personal and spiritual growth. She apprenticed with shaman and healers from various cultures and gained certification in over 20 healing modalities. Using her extensive knowledge of the human body, essential oils, emotional intelligence, and brain profiling, she helps clients to find immediate relief from emotional and physical pain. She also launched the Women's Health Revolution, a movement aimed at improving health and mindset of change makers.
My face is focused.
Carla has dedicated over 30 years to her healing work and has also selflessly served millions through her volunteer work for Embracing the World, an organization focused on alleviating human and global suffering. Can all the guests please mute their microphones at this time? Thank you. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Carla. It's lovely to have you here, Carla. Oh, you're on mute, my lovely. If you just take yourself off, we can hear you and we can see you.
I'm muted, and the other people that need to be muted are not muted.
Welcome to the stage, Carla.
It's such is life, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share some tips for people, a little bit about how they can overcome challenges in their business. And really the same things that help people overcome challenges in their business are the same things that help them overcome challenges in other parts of their life. So I really hope that this information is helpful. I love this quote from Arianna Huffington. She says, "We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes, understanding that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success." And Indra Nooyi says, "If you want to improve the organization, you have to improve yourself, and the organization gets pulled up with you." So I think those are the two key points I want to talk about today. One of the things that keeps people from being able to overcome challenges is not having a strong enough resilience muscle. And most people don't really understand where resilience comes from. I know that I didn't until I had to go through it to really go, oh, now I understand. Because I wasn't always resilient. My health crisis that you talked about helped make me resilient because it really took a certain level of determination. When I was sick all those years ago, 35 years ago, the doctors basically told me they couldn't help me, and they sent me home to bed with some antidepressants and said, just go home and sleep it off. And then, we don't really know what to do for you. And up until that time, I just thought that, my doctors and my parents actually knew how to fix everything. And that was sort of my, aha moment in life. And I remember taking that one antidepressant and collapsing on the toilet and realizing this is not the path for me, and I will never do this again. And I threw away those medications, and I have not taken a prescription or over-the-counter medication over 35 years. How did I do that? It's the same tools that I used to overcome that helped me with my business, actually. And part of that really comes from, we lose energy when we have emotions and traumas and different events in our life that we don't realize we make a decision inside of ourselves. And as a result of those emotions, one emotion that has not been healed, we may not realize something's a traumatic event until maybe years later. So it may not register. But anyway, one emotion can create as many as 12,000 thoughts. And those thoughts keep the mind busy, but more importantly, what they do is they draw energy from us so that we cannot have the energy and the resources that we need in order to do what we need to do. So the premise of the work that I do with people now is heal the baggage. Once you heal the emotional baggage that's in there, there's less resistance, there becomes more resilience, and the mind gets quieter, and we are more open to options and resources that we weren't aware of before. When we're able to do that, we start to see possibilities instead of dead ends. And when we talk about overcoming challenges, it's really about developing new strategies for overcoming what we see maybe in the past as a dead end. So looking for being more open to other options, being more open to other people who might offer solutions for us. But more importantly, as we heal those emotions, reprogramming ourselves to recognize that we can have a different belief system, that it is possible that what we thought was the truth is not the truth. So I really love to help people see that the perception that they have about themselves, about others around them, and a particular event usually isn't right on, even though there's a lot of emotional projection that goes on around us where, and that's a result of how a lot of us were raised. I don't know about you. I had pretty great parents that did their best, but they had a limited way of thinking that caused them to go to only certain solutions when things happen. For example, when they got sick, they would always go to a doctor. They weren't really hot on medications, but they took them. And I think that describes 99% of the population, and what I like to do is teach you that those emotions are what's causing you to feel sick or feel physically challenged. And I know we all have physical incidents that happen to us as well. There's actual physical damage. But again, the body has a lot of resources, and we have the ability to heal almost anything as a result of clearing that emotional baggage that's in there. The problem is emotions have a bad rap in our society. And we're given 26 emotions, estimated, that most people have. Most people only work with 1 or 2 or 3 of their emotions most of the time. They recognize the big ones like anger, fear, sadness. but not the subtle things that are happening in between. And those subtle layers are actually, there's a reason we have emotions. And most people never question that. Like, why do I have emotions? Why do I have 26 of them? What's the point of that? And the emotions are an opportunity to inform us. Think of them as data rather than having any like good or bad. Emotions are neither good nor bad. They're just data. They're information coming at us from the universe to help us make better decisions. And if we are not putting our emotional baggage, our emotional lens in the way, and we can actually see what's coming at us, like you can experience the emotion and the message that it has to bring to you without derailing yourself, right? So allowing yourself to acknowledge the emotion, but not necessarily be swallowed by it. And a lot of times there's a sort of a melodramatic part of us that God instilled as a child, where it's like, oh, it's going to be like this forever. You know, this challenge is going to be here forever. I'm sick. It's going to be here forever, you know, unless I do this. Well, another thing that people should know is whenever we feel like we've got no choices, that's a sign that your ego is working overtime. So choices come if you feel a sense of urgency that you have to do something, a lot of times that means that the ego is involved. It means that you've got an emotional lens in the way of making your choices. When you recognize that you have all the time in the world to get everything done, and that those ideas of limitation, time limits, limits of ability, those are just, they're perceptions that can be changed, they can be altered. And that happens again when we heal the emotion that's creating the thought. So think of a challenge as a call to action of some sort. And it's also an opportunity to be willing to call in the truth. So one thing you can do, and I'm not the person who created this, but there's many scholars out there who say, look, you know, just ask yourself, is this true? Is this situation true? And then after you ask yourself that, ask yourself if it's really true. And then ask that question again. Because a lot of times the things that we believe to be true are not actually true. There's only so many choices. Oh, there's only one left of this. If I don't get this one thing, my life is never going to be good, you know. So we tend to over dramatize these events in our lives because that comes from a place of scarcity, and that's something that we learned growing up as children. And maybe our parents didn't intend to implant that thought in our heads, but I know when I was growing up, my family a lot of times used the language of we can't afford that, right? So and my thought as a child was, oh, okay, we're poor. That's how I translated that, right? As I matured in my life and I look back, I go, gosh, you know, we actually had we're not poor, you know, we were by no stretch of the imagination. And I think that it's just about learning, relearning our languaging that's going on inside of our heads. You know, now I look back at those times and I think, well, if they could have just said, we're choosing not to spend money in that direction because we have this other priority, that would have been a great way to, you know, to talk to me as a child. And so again, these are going back to those limiting beliefs that we have in us as growing up as adults. We may not even recognize that we're holding on to these things and that they're controlling everything that we're doing. So what I love for people to do is, as you start to question those things that you believe to be true, and as you heal those emotions that are in there, you start to pay attention to them, give them actually, that's all they want, is for you to give them attention and to be with them. And that is a way of healing it. As you heal that, you start to make you start to see that you have more energy. Your energy is not being wasted by going into this, you know, emotional spiral that's not helping you move forward. So I like to help people see that. And as they start to be present to those emotions, their energy starts to go up, and they're not just their resilience, but their ability to fight off physical issues as well. So fevers, you know, pains. I had one client who, you know, she was a very accomplished woman, but she was not very confident. And when she came to me, she was looking to figure out which direction she wanted to go in her work. It was either be a nurse or a teacher. She could have done either one. And so we worked together to heal that confusion. And as she healed the confusion, the clarity came in and her energy started to go up. And she actually pulled in a perfect job for her as a teacher and got very, very well paid. But what was interesting during that process was she had migraine headaches, and that was part of, you know, that emotional resistance that she had going on. So we were able to heal the emotions that were causing the migraine headaches. She'd had them for years. And as a result of that, she never had a headache. She's not had any headaches since. And she's going forward with more resilience, more energy, and she's not creating anything that's, a lot of times we create these physical symptoms to keep us from doing things that we really want to do. But there's fear in there. And if you think about everything that we don't do, that we justify we shouldn't do, whatever, most of it comes down to we're afraid. We're afraid of you know, treading new water, going into a new area in our life, trying different resources out. And so as we start to heal the fear, again, going back to what I said earlier, people start to become more open and more receptive to what's out there. So for people who want to learn more about what I have available, or, you know, maybe you can go to my website, carlacohen.com. I'm going to put that in the chat for people. There's a Pain to Purpose special for anybody today who would like to learn about, you know, would like to heal some emotions and move forward with clarity and resilience and overcome those challenges easier. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Carla, wonderful. It's our pleasure for having you. Thank you for being here. That was amazing. Again, another powerful a speaker for our second speaker today. Carla, I loved the way you talked about all the things that we need to question in when we have the decisions, and why it's so important that we do that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that wisdom with us. I definitely think, you know, coming from someone that's worked with children, I am very conscious of how everything that we say to children, we have a big responsibility as parents, or anyone that works with children, or anyone that interacts, that sometimes our comments can seem quite literal, can't they, to children, and they can often be taken in a childlike way and not always the way we've intended. So you brought up the fact that certain comments that you might say as parents that you could think are nothing can make you have a mindset of lack of abundance, like in your case, you know, where just a throwaway comment is, you know, we can't afford that, and yet it can manifest as something in you where you believe you've got to be careful, and it changes your thought about money. So thank you so much for sharing that, and I hope that you know, some people working with children will become more aware of what they're saying, and that was really helpful that you talked about other ways of saying it. For example, that the parents could have gone into a bit more explanation about why they're not investing their money there. And the big takeaway, I think, for everybody watching is, of course, this questioning. We sometimes think things are the way they are, but we should always look, is it really the truth? So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think it's just recognizing that you may not realize, what I find is most people don't even realize they're having an emotion, and that's what's causing them to make the decision. And so it's learning how to connect with your body and your body's wisdom, so that you can actually start to understand that you are having an emotion, and that's what's causing you to make the decision that you're making at this moment in time. That's really important. And thank you for saying that. Yes, I think it's true that people, it's becoming aware. Children have a very simplistic way sometimes too of reasoning, right? It's like, okay, I saw two men say that they liked steak, and I had a woman who said that she liked chicken. So all women must like chicken and all men must like steak. You know, this is how, you know, the beginning of a child's mind works, right? And so it's up to us to allow that, you know, open up that child's mind to other possibilities, so that they're not just seeing that's that. Then they go forward in life going, well, all women eat chicken and all men eat steak. You know,
it's very literal, isn't it? When they're very young, they really do take everything as the way it is. Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
You're most welcome, and you're absolutely right to say that it's the emotion. When we react with any emotion, we're not having that clarity of thought as much. So to recognize that we have those emotions, perhaps when we're not aware of it, and to get that help and assistance to go through that journey. You mentioned you put things in the chat for people to be able to get hold of you. So I appreciate that on the Facebook page chat right now, where we've got lots of people jumping in. Is there anyone on the panel that has any questions? I've been checking in here. There's a lot of people agreeing with what you're saying, and really, really enjoyed what you shared with us.
Thank you.
this afternoon, because I'm here in the UK, but wherever you are in the world, thank you so much.
It's very early here.
I know we've woken you up a little bit.
All right, it's all right. So if I sounded a little incoherent, that would be it. But yeah, I do want to say one other thing is that one thing for people to register too is that all fear is just fear of the feeling. I mean, this is a very simple thing I just said, but it means a lot. So really contemplate that. All fear is really fear of feeling, the feeling itself. So if you can recognize that it's a feeling, that again, going back to that, it's so important, and your life will really literally change. You know, I've gotten my energy back. It's changed everything for me as I understood this more. So thanks again. I know the rest of the summit's going to be great. So thanks for having me in.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that as well. You know, fear is a feeling. It's great because we did a podcast here on GST about Be Fearless. And I hosted many different entrepreneurs and CEOs of business, etc., talking about fear and how they've overcome it. And it was interesting because one gentleman even said, you think you're scared of public speaking or fear of it, but nobody really has a fear of anything. And you're kind of confirming that the fear is just a feeling. So you kind of don't have the fear of public speaking or fear of something else. It's like fear is just the feeling, and it's not even really real. It's like, you know, they say false evidence appearing real, don't they? For fear, that's what the acronym stands for. It's very interesting. And I hope that a lot of people take that on board today. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on now to our next speaker, who's coming up very swiftly behind, and it is going to be Julie. Now, Julie is coming to us as a well-known leadership coach, trainer, speaker, and author with a diverse educational background and extensive experience in the pharma industry. She is dedicated to accelerating future leadership by working with executive teams and high potential leaders. Julie's motivation for coaching stems from her father's teaching and her desire to help individuals discover their purpose and stay focused on their goals. And I am hoping that Julie is ready to step up to our virtual stage. Hello, Julie. It's nice to see you.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well. I'm really looking forward to hearing you chat today. We had a little chat before we came on. I'm very excited to hear what you have to share with us.
Great, great. And I just want to make sure that I'm sharing my screen. Am I?
You are indeed, yes.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. Just give me a second. Okay, can you see it perfectly?
It's brilliant. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who's watching. I'd love for you to get a pen and paper if you can, because we're going to get into something that is going to cause you to be moved in a direction of greatness. And we're going to talk a little bit about purpose today, because I think it's so important to lean into purpose as we build and grow our businesses. One of the things that I want to tell you is that as a speaker, I tap into my purpose every time I'm about to get on stage. And that purpose really drives me and moves me to want and be the person that I am, so that I can give and exchange energy to people while I'm presenting. So let's talk about purpose and let's think about what gives our life meaning. So if you have your pen and your paper, I want you to write down what gives your life meaning. And so I want to talk about purpose. What is purpose? Because everybody has a different definition. And although I'm going to share this definition, you may continue to have your own definition, which is fine, because it's all personal. It's all like, what does it mean to you? But purpose is an overarching sense of what matters in your life. It's driven by your core values, and it gives your life a sense of meaning. Purpose acts as your North Star, even helps us know if we veered off or we're veered on. We talked about resilience a little bit this morning, but it's really about the path that we're on for our lives and work. So purpose gives us a deep sense of fulfillment, satisfaction. It's usually focused on others. It transcends ourself, and it's really leaning into those values of personal growth, relationship, and community. I'm going to show you a little bit about why purpose is so important. I love this slide because it gives the actual numbers of why purpose is so important. So purpose gives us neural protection. And people with a sense of purpose have a boosted resilience of brain cells. There is a 50% less risk of dementia, reduced Alzheimer's, reduced risk of stroke, and you age slower when you have a sense of purpose. Now, mental health, let's get there. So purpose protects our mental health. People with a sense of purpose feel like they have a decreased sense of isolation, anxiety, and depression. And they increase their self-care because they have something to look forward to every day. And people with a sense of purpose, they're more active, they're more physical because they're still taking care of themselves. And there's a 17% risk in hospital stays, lower inflammatory response, increased self-care and regular screenings. And purpose helps you just live longer. And so what I want to lean into today is about purpose and our personal purpose and how it relates to our business, because it's so important for us to reflect on this. If you don't know your purpose already, I urge you to learn about what that is and how your purpose and passion connects to your business. Because when you can tap into that, the energy comes, the life comes, the excitement comes, the I get to stories come. And so I love that we get to talk about I get to. And I'm going to tell you a quick story today about my dad. And I'm going to show you how this kind of like plays out in real life and in my life to inspire you today to come up with your own stories so that you have something to share on the stage when the lights go on and you have your ring light at home, if you're presenting at home or if you're presenting out in the world. It doesn't matter where you're presenting. You can be presenting on audio. You can be presenting for 3 people on a Zoom, or you could be presenting for 13,000 people. It doesn't matter. It's the same message and it's the same you, and you show up every time. Okay, so this is my dad. This is Ennio Riga. He is a legend in his own right. Okay, so my dad, Ennio Riga, is a chef and was a chef. He's passed now, but he was an executive chef for many years and he had this amazing career. And so this man's motto in life was, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. So that's why it's so critical to love your business and really have it flow out of that purpose. Because as an entrepreneur, we work really hard. And if that thing that you're doing isn't connected to some deep, sticky purpose, you will get burnt out. And I can tell you that with podcasting, I'm a podcaster, 50 episodes in, like I'm not giving up. Like it is my thing now because it's so connected to who I am and what I do. So I show you this story because this man came from nothing. This man was starving when he was a child. He rose all the way up into the ranks. And what happened is right before he passed away, he left me his life story to finish. The man emailed me his life story and he said, Julie, I need you to write my story. I'm not going to be here to finish it, but I want you to finish it. And so like 5 months before he passed, he sent me an email with this life story. And I was like, Dad, come on. Like when people die, they get inheritance. They don't get a life story to finish. Like I was, Dad, what are you doing to me right now? I can't. I was so upset that he did this that I ignored it. Finally, he dies. And 2 days after, I start realizing, oh gosh, I have this book. I got to finish it. So I realized that this was part of my purpose. I had done a lot of work earlier on to really lean into what my purpose was. And so I created a personal mission statement. I got really into purpose. I started working with purpose and women and helping them understand what their purpose was, because my thing was like, you just need to know what it is, remove the obstacles and move it forward. So that was my process in helping these women get to the place where they were going to activate their life, activate their purpose that was deep, deep inside of them. So my father leaves me this story and it's a crazy ride, right? I do this thing. I do his life story and I use it as my story on TEDx. So I did a TEDx. It was all about my father. They did this amazing cartoon because this is really his story about how he grew up and the intersection of my purpose and his purpose and how that worked together and how it stays on course. This story is my go-to story when I get on stages. And this story is an example of how I have been preparing for stages and speaking and doing the things that I need to do for my business. So part of the problem and the challenge here as business entrepreneurs is that we're confident on the stage, that we're excited, that we're getting that energy, because the people that are listening to us, they want that energy. They don't want us to be flat. They don't want us to be boring. They want us to have that extra oomph of energy so that they're drawn into us. And so I love to talk about purpose and all of these different things. And I'll tell you a little bit about how this now connects to what I'm doing. But I want to pose out a question to you before I get into the next part of this, which is, if you were going to time travel to write your story, what would your book be about? What is the title of the book? What are your ingredients for success? We can frame it out in these ideas. Like what, and I would ask the audience too, what would your book be about? If you had to write your book or your life story, what would be about? Do you know your life's purpose? And so I think that this is the preparation. And I call this concept and the program that I'm working on called Before I Speak. And so the idea is that you get ready before you need to get ready, so that you're always ready. So if someone calls you up as an entrepreneur and says, hey, I'm running to do this live stream, I'm running to be on Clubhouse, I'm running, can you join me? And the answer is yes, I can join you because I'm ready. I'm ready. And so I want to encourage every single person here who's an entrepreneur to get ready for the stage, get ready to speak. You always want to be ready. Today, I'm going to offer you guys all a freebie. I have the link in the chat. I can repost it again. But the idea here is that you get ready before you're ready, so that you're ready for the stage, that you're ready when the time comes, when they say lights are on, that little record button is on. You are ready to take the stage no matter what. You have your go-to stories, you have your go-to presentations, so that you're never caught off guard. So all that work can be done before. And I've created a document for myself. It's called Before I Speak. That's where this came from. I did the work. I wanted to remember, what do I want my audience to experience when they're with me? How do I want to show up? What do I do if I get nervous? All of the things that I need to be and do before those lights go on, so that I can be the best presenter I can be and the most authentic speaker I can be. And then my voice sounds good because people are listening to me. They're not only seeing me, they're hearing me. So I need to make sure my voice is showing up, my message is showing up, and my energy showing up for my audience as we move into the things that we want to do for our business. So don't say no to getting on the podcast. Don't say no to getting on the live. Say yes, but be ready before. And if you're interested in some help with that, I'm happy to help you. You can see my information here and also in the chat, but I'd love to hear any questions we have from the audience.
That's fantastic. And this is your Before I Speak event detail. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have a manual that I'm offering for free. So I have that link there. So it's called Before I Speak. But I also am offering a Presentations with Purpose class on December 8th. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what it means to do presentations with purpose, to bring the energy, to bring the way you sound a little crisper, the way you look a little crisper, so that we're always ready. We want to always be ready for the stage. And so I've built some programs for entrepreneurs and speakers to help them get ready for the stage so they can feel like confident and they don't have to worry, oh, do I not look right? Do I not sound right? And all those things, all those stories we tell ourselves, because we're so ready that we don't have to worry about some of the things that we are worried about right now. So that's what it's about.
Absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure there'll be some takers. It's amazing that what you've told us here today about always being ready. And if nobody takes anything else from what they've heard, what you've said there is so powerful. Make sure you're ready and don't turn it down. You know, I'm sure everybody's got a little story. Those that are in business have been there a little while, where maybe they turned something down and they regretted it, or maybe they didn't turn something down and it changed everything. I know myself, I was absolutely terrified to speak, as I mentioned at the opening. And I had the opportunity where I was given a speaking gig almost right out the back. out the doors, and they had no idea how terrified I was. And I wanted to turn it down, but I did what you said. I thought, no, if when I start turning things down, it's a pattern, always be ready, always say yes, no matter how hard it might be, or you can make excuses. We can let our emotions get involved, like Carla was talking about, we've got to make the right decisions, and the right decision is always be ready. And with you, Julie, they can get even more ready than they are now by joining one of your programs, for sure.
Yeah. Always be ready. And the other thing that I want to stress to entrepreneurs is you have such an opportunity to be on camera with all the social media that we have, and LinkedIn audio events. Now there's so many opportunities for us to be live and for us to be touching the audiences that we want to be touching. But if you're afraid, you're not going to do it. If you're worried about what people are going to say about you, you're not going to do it. If you're not ready, you're not going to do it. So get ready, do the work that you need now. If you need to hire a coach, I can help you. There's tons of coaches out there. But the thing is that as an entrepreneur, you need to find the people that help you level up those skills that you may not be leveled up in. And it's not like the rest of your life that you need to, work with this coach, but get yourself over the hump so that you say yes and say yes today. That's my leave with you.
Excellent. And I absolutely love it. Getting close to your purpose, a very, very empowering speech today, Julie. I can't thank you enough. We actually have a question for you, Julie, in our Facebook. Elise is asking, going back to your purpose, Julie, how does knowing your purpose make you a more enthusiastic presenter?
Yeah, I love that question, because it really does anchor you in. So we need an anchor to anchor us into the moment that we're in. And as things go wrong, we had some issues this morning, right, with the muting. Tech is going to go wrong. Your kid is going to yell at you before you get on stage. There's so many things that can come against you as you're getting ready to get on the stage. But you need to remember, like, that deep purpose, like why you're here. You're not usually there for yourself. You're there to help and serve others. So knowing that will help you anchor yourself in so that you can show up with the energy that you need, because you're constantly reminding yourself why. It's like the Simon Sinek, start with why. That is where all the good work is done. And then you can show up as enthusiastically as you can.
Excellent. You summed it up brilliantly. That is amazing. And it's so true, isn't it? In our work, or if our work is being on stage, no matter what's happened before, we walk on there and we do the thing because we love what we do and we want to make a difference. So brilliant to leave us with that, Julie. Thank you so much. Fabulous. We're not even halfway through, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, that came from my days in the classroom. Little slip there, forgive me. We've now got Kim coming up to speak to us next. And Kim Groschet is a legendary founder of Pause Power Incorporated. She's on a mission to pause, unplug, and breathe to elevate, inspire, and change our world for the better. She's an elite master coach, a #1 international co-author, a motivated speaker, a podcast host, a book and film producer, and a founder of the Spring Soiree Scholarship nonprofit to give opportunities to young entrepreneurs. You can find her books, Miracle Migraine Remedy, Pause Power, and Think Inside the Time Box, and The Shift, and others on Amazon. And you're invited to join her private Pause Power community, which is facebook.com/groups/Pause Power. So before I ask her to come to the stage, I just want to mention, Julie, if you want to put your details into the chat again, because I did go back to try and repost them, but I couldn't actually find them in the Facebook chat. So if you go to the Facebook page, people are chatting there now, and they would love to get your information. Elise says, thank you so much for the answer to your question. And without further ado, I'm going to invite Kim to our virtual stage this afternoon. And sadly, Kim has, there she is. Kim, have you got technical difficulties, or can you unmute and come to the stage?
All right, I'm on Zoom.
You're on. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, this is such an honor to be here. And I'm just going to tell you a little story on how Pause came to be. But first of all, I would like to ask everyone, how many of you have this device sitting in front of you and you're chatting, emailing, whatever it may be, if you do, please pause for a moment, turn your device over, unplug, and just pay attention just for a little bit here. And I know that our devices give some distraction, so that's why I'm asking you to do that. So, and then the other question for the audience, I'd like you to type in the chat, me, for how many of you feel like you're always on, you're always going, and there's no time to stop. Type me in the comments. So I personally felt this way. I'm a computer scientist by trade. I started in way back when I was a little girl. I used to go to work with my dad. He was a computer operator, and I'd walk into his computer room. All these gigantic computers were all around me, and I was fascinated. I used to type on the digital keyboard, and all the little, they were IBM cards, they call them different things, but they punch every time that you would type. And I was fascinated by the beautiful designs that I could make. Fast forward, I was actually going to college and I did not know what I wanted to do. I was supposed to be a fashion designer. But what happened was I actually got my degree in education all over the place, right? But I ended up getting my first job as a director of computer operations. And from there, I rode the wave of computers and I kept getting educated. I kept learning because it was such a fascinating thing for me to get into that computer, delve in. But it got to a point where when my 3-year-old daughter came up to me while my head was in the machine, literally in the machine, trying to do programming and be creative. And she said, Mommy, can you spend time with me? At that moment, I realized how addicted I was becoming with my computer. So I had to, at that time, and this was back in the early 90s, I had to become really aware of managing my time around computers. Now, this was not like something easy. I was in and out. Again, I was riding the wave, right? But I discovered it, fast forward again in 2015, about 8 years ago. I also found myself waking up in the morning and then my head was in social media. And I realized, I look at my watch and I'd say, oh my goodness, 6 hours later, I was in social media. So I had to disconnect myself from social media for 6 months. I had to disconnect myself from the iPhone for a year, and I did it. As I started doing that, I started to realize the stress in my neck started to release. I started to get more time back by taking a pause. And I have been practicing the pause since then. I've run half marathons in 50 states. I've done all kinds of things from pausing. And all it takes for us to do is to tell ourselves to pause, unplug, and breathe. Now, it may sound like an easy concept, right? But we practiced it in June. I had 300 people that came on board to practice a pause for 5 days for 15 minutes a day. And I am telling you, it was really uncomfortable for a lot of people to take a pause just for 15 minutes, even breaking it up, right? So we've been practicing the pause in a mastermind. I have everyone gets together every Wednesday, and we set an intention on how we're going to practice a pause. So I support everyone in practicing the pause. But what came from this is, if you notice how fast I'm talking, when I actually started to go on stage and start speaking in August. And I loved what the last speaker was talking about, was saying yes to everything, because that's what I've been doing. And when I'm on stage, I have to tell myself, okay, I'm going to pause for a moment because I want to let it settle in the audience. And I do that a lot in my speaking. I have to say it out loud because I am such a fast speaker on stage. I also have methods before I go out and speak to meditate, to get grounded. And I have to remind myself to pause. I actually have to set some time aside to practice a pause for myself before I have any speaking engagements. So that is actually how I actually got into the pause, and the community is an amazing community now. What we're discovering is that there are more things in the pause than just pausing. Initially, it was take a pause, unplug and breathe, or just settle in a space with no technology or with no always on, whatever that may be. And from that, we've learned and discovered how to practice Tai Chi. We've learned and discovered some triggers that we have. I have learned different ways to approach and support people on looking at your anger objectively so that you catch it. You catch your stresses. And this, again, is helpful on the stage because many times when we're speaking, we get inside our head or outside of our head. And the method around objectively seeing how you are, even coming back to like the last speaker talking about your why, right? Coming back to pause and coming back into the grounding of who you are and coming back to your heart so that you can actually share truly, authentically who you are in your moment. Because you're in and out when you actually are speaking. There's times when you memorize when you speak, right? And then you get out of it. And so today, what I'd like to leave with you is just take a moment and practice the pause for just 5 minutes even. And you are welcome to sign up for my link. I have a meditation link free for 10 minutes. You can practice that, as well as I have the dates and times for when you can come to our mastermind for free. And I'll support you in practicing your pause every Wednesday morning, Central Time. Any questions?
That's amazing. That's great to invite everybody to those free offers that you have there. I'm sure there's some people that'll be very interested. I certainly am. I know that I've heard before about, how important it is to breathe and the meditation and everything. But what I loved was the way you absolutely simplified: pause, unplug, and breathe. And I guess that's what you really want people to take away. And another thing that really hit me is that when you're able to do that and you're able to be more present, like you're explaining, and be speaking perhaps from the heart, or, coming right back to where you are, you start to learn things about yourself. Like you said, you might see triggers that you were never aware of, because it's much like was said earlier, you're clearing away the excess, and you're just focusing, and it can bring so many things to you. So thank you so much. Another very powerful way of getting back to who you are, stopping all the noise, stopping being busy. I absolutely love it. And the story as well about your daughter, I know there will be parents, including myself, who can relate to that, because we do get very busy in our work. And quite honestly, our children are so important in our life that we would love to be with them all the time. And we will really feel it when they say to us, you're always doing that, Mummy. and it may be that they think that anyway, because they see us working at home sometimes, but we have to get to the point where we're like, hold on a minute, maybe they've got a point here, and maybe we do need to slow down and work.
Yeah, I mean, when you bring up purpose, my why is I'm doing this to leave my 35-year-old daughter right now, to leave a legacy for her, to heal our families so she can live in a healed world.
That is beautiful, Kim. That is beautiful. Tell us your takeaways today from today's speakers. I know you have them. I have notes here in abundance. So we'd love to hear them. Thank you so much, Kim, for everything you shared. Absolutely extraordinary. It's been an extraordinary afternoon, but we're not stopping there, folks. We have got more, and I'm keeping it coming with our next speaker. We have coming up now. Before I do want to just ask the panel, are there any questions? Make sure that you pop them in the meeting chat for me so that I can pass them on to any of the speakers that have spoken so far. And if I've missed some in the Facebook chat, please let me know. But I'm going to move on for now to Nathan. Nathan, you're all set. I could see you there in the background. Nathan is a leadership coach with a difference. He has worked for 15 years as a coach and trainer, and during the last 3 years, he's also worked as a hypnotherapist, specializing in inner child trauma. Through his work, he's helping leaders raise their emotional intelligence and build stronger relationships through deeper self-awareness, which creates long-lasting, thriving cultures. I am really honored to welcome to the stage Nathan Simmons. Hi, Nathan.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone watching live and on the recording and all the other guest speakers, because everything that's being said is so resonant, so powerful, so relevant, and is just feeding into, and it's shaping the way that I'm going to be now speaking and thinking about that. So it's really looking at what these triggers are. It's really looking at what our habits and behaviors are. It's really looking at what causes something to feel out of alignment, something that doesn't feel quite right in us when we're doing these things. Because as entrepreneurs, as leaders of business, as parents, we are creating something. We are pouring our heart and souls into these things that we are putting into the world. And when those things don't work, or they feel too much, or they feel too big, it causes us to react in a certain kind of way and pulls us back. It makes us question who we are and how we're showing up in the world. But these moments that we get these triggers, that we get these sensations, whether they're physical illness or mental illness, these become the windows, these become the lenses with which we can look at ourselves in different ways, and we can explore what's coming up for us. When we understand how to look through that lens, when we have the wherewithal and the self-awareness and the self-compassion in order to look through that lens. And that's when we turn that window into a door where we can then walk through that and explore that part of us that is feeling that. Because it isn't us, it's a feeling we are experiencing. Too many people tune into their emotions and they say, I am angry, I am sad, I am anxious. No. You are experiencing the sensations of anxiety. You are experiencing the sensations of anger. It's not who you are. The moment you say, I am, you're saying that's a definitive. You're creating a label, you're creating an identity with which you will live up to and create personas and habits and behaviors that perpetuate and compound that belief every time you walk into a room. And as one of my teachers once said to me, labels are Velcroed, not super glued. So you can take that off and you can change it to whatever suits you. Now, it may be that label was a prescription, was an idea, it was someone else's opinion that was pinned on you. They're not your words. It's not your beliefs. What happens to us is, as children, we start to measure our worth based on how we were treated. We have people in our lives show up giving us 40 maps of the world, but these are given to us by people that don't even know how to navigate. And then we wonder why, when we step out of a paid job and become an entrepreneur, or we try something different, or we expand our business or grow our team, that all of a sudden we hit these obstacles and we hit these challenges and we suddenly don't feel like we can, and we don't feel worthy. We feel like it's too much for us. But then we have to understand that these things are the lenses, the windows with which we see the world, or with which we see ourselves in the world. So these things aren't to be shied away from, aren't to be pushed away. These are to be held a little bit closer, to be brought closer with kindness. To be curious, not judgmental of yourself, because the moment you judge someone, you cannot influence them, and that includes yourself. It has to be done with curious, questioning, appreciative inquiry. But these things, these moments that happen when we step outside of our known parameters, we go beyond our comfort zone, and that feeling comes up. In truth, when that does happen, I can hand on heart say for everyone, it's not the first time you felt that way. There will be a moment in your history, whether from school or whether from a parent or a grandparent, where something happened, something was said or wasn't said, that it caused an emotional moment in you. That sensation that's coming up now will be resonant of, it will be an echo of, or a dilution of. And that stressor, that reaction coming up is just an indication of some part of you that needs to be explored. It's just an invitation for you to go and find yourself a little bit more, so you can go and be more of yourself. And I'm not a church person, but I do believe in God. I believe in the universe. I believe in source. And as Dr. Constance was sharing, and so was Julie and Carla, I want to share this quote with you before I kind of break this down a little bit deeper. And it's from the Gospel of Thomas. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. We have these burning passions, these purposes inside of us, and we hold them back, and they corrode us from the inside. They break us down and hold us back because of those beliefs we learn to believe about ourselves based on someone else's opinion. So this is what trauma is, and it's really understanding the truth about trauma and how it shows up in our world. So if you imagine there's a little version of you, and maybe they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, maybe whatever age they are, but they're all dressed up as in adult clothes, looking like one of those cute wedding card pictures, you know, with the sleeves all hanging down, and there you are in the boardroom of your head like boss baby. But then something happens. You got mum and dad, and mum is the divine feminine and dad is the divine masculine, and they're gods, and they have to be. Because human babies are the most useless creature on the planet. You know, if you look at a dog, you look at a cat or a buffalo, within 2 hours they can walk, within 2 days they can run. Human baby can't even wipe its own backside for the first 4 years of its life, if you're lucky. And we love them dearly, but it's the truth. But then something happens. Mum says something, dad does something. And you get given this dossier, this folder of how flawed your parents are. And with all the best will in the world, we love our parents, but you know, in the majority, but this happens to all of us. Most parents are unconscious, unaware, asleep, all the way up to willfully abusive and socially negligent. And I work with people in every part of that spectrum. But we get given this dossier in that moment where they don't realize, and our whole world starts collapsing down on itself. And that dossier is trauma. Now, as Gabor Mate says, trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you. But it's something that changes you psychologically and physiologically and causes you to adapt your behavior in order to survive. That's what trauma really is. Trauma can be surviving the 80-car pileup on a Canadian highway, or it could be the last words that your first girlfriend or boyfriend said to you when you were 12 years old. That could be trauma. Something that changes you in that moment. Now, human children and human beings just need 3 things. They need to feel safe, certain, and loved. That's it. Safe with these people, certain they're going to get their needs met, and loved for who they are. But in that moment, when you experience that trauma, you no longer feel safe, you no longer feel certain, you no longer feel loved. It's all gone. But the human brain only wants you to do 2 things. Stay alive, make babies. That's it. Super simple. Super simple. This is how the human species has continued to move forward, you know, so well. So what happens in that moment when you don't feel safe and certain? The brain, the mind believes you're going to die. Because up until the age of 7, if you don't get your needs met, you can die psychologically and physiologically. If you don't get fed, clothed, kept warm, loved, and held, you can die from not getting those things. So the ego steps in, and this is when your ego first forms. And the ego says, I'll take that away from you. We don't want you to feel like that. We'll take that away. And the little versions of you like, seriously, bro, I'm good. This is awful. Take it away. So the ego reaches in, it takes the dossier, and it takes the emotions, and it takes some of the memory with it, and it says, right, I'm going to lock it in this room. And I'm going to mark this room a 99 out of 100 for horrendous, right? If you go in here, it's going to be apocalyptic. It's going to be rivers of blood, 4 horsemen, cats liking dogs. It's going to be an absolute mess, right? And the little version of you goes, I'm good, seriously, I won't go. Right, and the ego's like, this is amazing. We're working well on this. And it's all happening in a split second. So the ego locks it away, and the ego says, but in order for you to stay away from this room, you're going to have to change the way you behave. And the little versions of you like, well, I don't want to feel like that. What do you want me to do? And the ego says, and I caveat this, because sometimes this can be the hardest thing for all of us to hear. In order for you to stay away from that room, you're going to have to change the way you behave. And the ego says, you're going to have to say it's all your fault. Whatever it was that happened, whatever it was that was said, it's going to have to be your fault, because if it's not your fault, it's their fault. And if it's their fault, you won't feel safe and certain. Because you don't need love to stay alive. You don't need love to make babies. You must need safety and certainty. But in that moment, what we don't realize is when we say it's all our fault, what we're actually saying is we're not lovable. Because if we were lovable, they wouldn't have done that to us. but we don't realize we're doing it. We're just doing it in that split second. We're 3, 4, 5, 7, 15, 20 years old. And we make that decision in that moment and the whole game changes. Because we just need connection. Doesn't matter how that connection is or how that connection works. We just need that in order to survive. And then we suddenly change our habits and behaviors, ego working with us, perfectionism, people pleasing, codependency, extreme independency, overworking, addictive behaviors, social media, alcohol, sex, gambling, all of these things, all out there trying to seek validation for who we are, believing that we're not lovable in that moment. But we're seeking it outside of ourselves, thinking that there's a massive chasm inside of who we are. So every time we step out of that known boundary, that known parameter, that known capability, that little part of us gets pushed. This isn't safe. I don't feel safe. I don't feel certain. So then the ego steps in and starts encouraging us to get back into those old habits, those old behaviors. We just end up reacting. This is where that word comes from. We end up reacting a past moment in the present, which stops us from creating the future. Because we've lost our ability to respond in that moment. This is what our responsibility is. It's that ability to respond to that thing that's happening. So it's to that curious exploration. We just end up going round and round. We end up walking backwards in a circle with our eyes closed, wondering why we keep ending up in the same place. We end up in the same relationship with a different person. We end up in a different job, but with the same boss. And then we end up giving ourselves a hard time for not seeing the red flags and turning them into a scarf and wondering why we aren't getting anywhere fast. So in these moments when we catch ourselves going, oh, I should have known better. Why can't I get it right? All of these things, these questions, these painful sensations, these are opportunities to explore who we are. These are opportunities to hold ourselves a little bit closer. These are opportunities to go into our shadowy places, to find our dragons and find the treasure that rests underneath them, as Joseph Campbell referred to. Because in your darkest place are the greatest treasures. They are the most wonderful parts of you with the greatest imaginations. And those parts are worth holding closer. Those parts are worth healing and reconciling. And it might seem that courage is required at the start. But you'll find as you go to those places, those things are transformed. Those past pains become future possibility. They become unleashed potential. New solutions, new ideas, new initiatives, completely inspired from who you are, living on purpose, living defined and definite. This is what comes when we work with our inner child, when we're striving to be the greatest leaders, to be the greatest parents, to be the greatest entrepreneurs. So every part of you is welcome. Every time you think you've made a mistake, every time you think you've caused a problem, every time you feel anxious, every time you bite your nails, every time you drink a bit too much, every time you push too hard, these are all indications of a part of you that is holding a belief, that is protecting that little version of you, because that version, that part of you that is protecting that version of you is doing all of this. It's doing all of this because it loves you. It loves you so much, it would rather see you doing those things and holding yourself back than feeling like you did in that moment when it first showed up in your life. It just doesn't know anything different. Doesn't know you've grown up, doesn't know you've had kids, doesn't know you've got a job, doesn't know you've traveled the world, doesn't know any of those things. It still thinks you're 3 years old. But what holds us together as children is what pulls us apart as adults. Stops us from being who we need to be and living on purpose. This is how it destroys you. This is how it shows up as illness, an incident, autoimmune disorders, mental health challenges, mental limitations, limited beliefs that keep you trapped in a moment. But there is so much richness in that moment when you go back and hold your own hand, when you go back to be the parent you wished you had in that moment, to be the safe place that you needed, to be that part of you that you're still waiting for. Because so many of us are waiting to be rescued, but we don't realize it's actually going to be us rescuing ourselves in that moment and releasing ourselves from the prison. Because you are the key and the cage all at the same time. There is so much wisdom, so much power inside of you that needs to come forth. And this is the beauty when we use hypnotherapy to do this. We can use the hypnotherapeutic state to create a safe space inside your subconscious mind in order for you to go back to be the adult you wished you had, not to re-experience a trauma and re-traumatize an individual, but to go back and be that person, to have a conversation with the 3-year-old version of yourself and be the hand that you're waiting to squeeze, to be the shoulder you need to lean on, and to feel that emotion that wasn't okay in that moment and allow it to release in the safety of your own arms inside your subconscious mind, because your mind does not know what is real or imagined. So in that moment, it feels so real and it feels so good to feel so safe with inside yourself, and then allow that inspiration to flow freely and that creativity to bubble up and enable you to be everything that you came here to be. And this is what I do for people. We change the narrative. We don't take away events. We don't want to take away the building blocks of who you are and why you came to be. We don't want to take away or enable you to forget the valuable lessons and the incredibleness that you are. We just want to change the narrative up here so your relationship to yourself shifts, supports, develops, nourishes. And therefore, as that relationship changes, as you learn to love yourself, you can show the world how to love you. Because that's what makes the world go round. This is where the joy is. Letting yourself go of those past pains, finding yourself in that wound, to go into that wound, to tend it, to nurture it, and to find that actually inside the wound is all of your medicine, and all of your medicine is needed in this now. So my invitation to all of you, I will share in the chat box, website link, where you can go there, sign up, and you'll get 4 guided hypnotherapy journeys that support people with anxiety or anxious sensations and how to get those over 4 weeks. I'll also share my Calendly link as well. So if you want to do a free one-to-one, explore what's coming up, I will share that with everyone here. That's open it for the next 3 weeks. And I'll also share my Eventbrite link. I'm watching the moon coming up over here in the UK right now because I love doing this work with leaders, with entrepreneurs, but I also like doing this in a spiritual space and creating these beautiful spiritual dynamic spaces where we can go into hypnosis and literally melt your ego and disappear into the earth and imagine that you're a horse galloping across a field like a grassland with the stallions coming up behind you, and all of these crazy things that we can do with hypnotherapy in order to activate all those most powerful parts of your mind and bring that more online. So I'll share the link to my Eventbrite page as well. And if you wish to join one of the new or full moon journeys, it's all done over Zoom. So I'm looking forward to speaking to everybody here. I hope that's useful and I hope that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. I know that it will be helpful and I know that it will be useful. And that was another powerful speech and talking about what you do through the realms of hypnotherapy and reaching the inner child. It was very, again, inspirational, I thought, sharing with our audience. And what really touched me was when you were talking about the rescuing, that you're unaware even that you need to rescue yourself, that you're looking to be rescued, but it will be you that's doing the rescuing in the end. And I like that thing that you said when you made that analogy that you're going to have the keys to your own prison and you're going to find them this way. And you're going to be the one that sets yourself free. And I just hope that people are listening today to all of you speakers, including you, Nathan, who've all shared stories about how it's so important to release these traumas and things, and to get to know yourself, because that was the essence again of what all of these talks have been about, the importance of us knowing ourselves, finding a way to get deep and to know what our triggers are, know what our feelings are, understand why we react a certain way and make changes. Like you said, you cannot carry on the way you've been. Otherwise, you'll get what you always had. You have to make changes if you're going to address these things. So thank you so much, Nathan. Is there anything else you want to share?
Just in that, when you're saying, if we always do what we always did, we always get what we always got. And this is true. And this in this time, in this era, we cannot afford half measures. As beautiful it is for people to think, oh, I'm just going to take my time and do this, and I'm going to go and I'll do the medication, do this, is, you know what? We all need to take the lead on who we are and how we're showing up. This time, this era is requiring more of us to step out of that. And yes, it might feel awkward. Yes, it might feel clunky to go through that. And at the same time, everything in you, about you, and around you is a solution to a problem. but most people think they're part of the problem. So we came here to solve something, and humanity as a whole right now needs everyone to step up and start solving that thing they came here to solve, and be their purpose and be on purpose and deliver. And it might feel clunky and sludgy, but it's so freaking worth it when you get on the other side and are doing that work and exploring and sharing. So worth it.
Absolutely. Be your purpose, find your purpose, and find your power in that purpose, because then you could share your power with other people. Brilliant, Nathan. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker coming up today is Eddie, and Eddie is going to share with us his take on overcoming business challenges. And Eddie is an author. He's a dynamic speaker and a certified coach whose superpower is reinvention. His commitment to transformation led him to build 2 multi-million-dollar companies. He has overcome obstacles in health, relationships, and in business. And Eddie has been teaching transformational principles and empowering others to reinvent themselves for over 30 years. I'd like you to give a warm welcome to the stage today, Eddie Issin. Hi, Eddie. Could you unmute yourself? Hold on, see if I can do it.
There we go. Good.
There we are. You're there. We can see you.
All righty. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to stand in front of you today and share a little bit of my experience with you. I wanted to say that let me just start out by saying a couple of important things. I believe that everybody has the power inside of themselves to reinvent themselves and succeed at the highest levels in all areas of their life. I believe that anything is possible. Truly, anything is possible within the laws of gravity and physics, as long as you're willing to put in some effort. I mean, you won't be dribbling a football, okay? Now, in my experience, one of the important things, and I'd like to just see if anybody could just do a show of hands or put a yes in the chat. Have you ever had some obstacle, some situation that came up in your life, some challenge, and you had no idea how you were going to do it, how you were going to overcome it, but somehow you were able to do that? You were able to overcome that adversity, and you were able to work through it. Can you just put a yes in the chat if that's true for you too? Because I find that that's the piece that we all need to plug into. We just need to have a little bit of help to identify that. It's what I call the reinvention engine. I believe that we could tap into that power. I mean, there's basically 7 different motivators for it. And, you know, understanding that a little bit about what's special for you as an individual and what really motivates you as an individual, what pushes you through. You know, for me, for example, being told no. This is a big motive for me. Tell me no, and I am going to definitely overcome any obstacle. Tell me it's not possible, and I'm going to overcome the obstacle. Another one is common belief. That tell me things that people commonly believe and they commonly say is true, and I will work to go against it, and I will win. Okay, these are just some of the things that trigger me. But each of us have a few things that trigger ourselves into doing things, and I want to just talk to you briefly, just tell you a little story about overcoming challenges in business and in entrepreneurship. I mean, I find that what happens really is most entrepreneurs get stuck in the idea of how am I going to do this? What do I need to do? Oftentimes, and I did this as myself, you know, as an entrepreneur, I went out there and figured I had to learn all these things and understand all this stuff. And I had to become a great student. And I spent hours and hours and days and months trying to learn this new skill, when really it would have been a whole lot easier if I would have just found somebody who was really good at that and had them do it for me. But it takes experience to learn these things, that it's not really about how, it's more like who. Dan Sullivan teaches, you know, and he wrote that book, Who Not How, which, you know, I've studied with Dan quite a bit. But essentially, that's just one little nugget I wanted to just throw out there. But back in when I started, originally my dream was to become a filmmaker and write, produce, and direct TV and film, which I did. And originally, everybody was attracted to me because it was me, and it was because my work, and they wanted me to do the work. And so as I developed this as a business and a full service production company, I really wanted to create systems that weren't dependent upon me, that anybody could do it, that I can have somebody sell it and somebody fulfill it, that I didn't have to do it, because frankly, I've always loved residual income, and I always want my residual income to be greater than my living expenses. And so as I was on this journey doing that, and I got involved in actually selling this thing, it was a television show that we sold. But as we went out there into the marketplace and talked to the appropriate business owners to be involved in this show, we got pushback. People were not willing to pay what we were asking, which really wasn't a lot in my mind. Okay, it wasn't a lot of money, but people were not willing to pay that money to us, and so we started taking less money in the beginning. And this was quite bothersome because it wasn't really going to work. It was not financially doable for me. So I kind of worked for about a month with these people trying to figure out ways, and it turned out that I was really open, by the way. I was really open to adapt. I was really open to get creative. Okay. And this is something you need to do. If you're not open to be creative, you're not open to find some other solution that's not the solution you want, because clearly what I wanted was just to be able to have a system where somebody went there and they paid the money that was supposed to be paid and I would be done, right? But no, it required a little bit more effort on my part, and I had to be creative about this. And what I did was, anyway, I had found that a lot of these people were willing to give me gift certificates to their restaurants, attractions, and entertainment venues as half of what they were doing instead of paying all cash. And so one day, just on a whim, I had $3,000 or $4,000 worth of gift certificates in my drawer that I would probably never be able to use myself. And so I decided to put a promo on that day and put it on the website that you can get half price gift certificates to all of these venues that you're watching on the TV show today by just going to our website. And that night I sold all $4,000 worth of gift certificates. And this gave me the resource that I needed. And I completely changed the package of how we sold it. And we sold it as an annual package for $10,000 worth of gift certificates. And I then had the revenue stream that was working. That was a dependable, repeatable system, making $20,000 a month selling gift certificates online by using the television show and the video, which is what I really wanted to do, was to make the videos and release the TV show and have a crew take care of it for me, which is what my goal was. But I had to get creative and adapt to how we do it. And that's how I find most things are in life, is that when you come to these challenges, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes too. For example, there have been times I've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. You know, I just thought there was no way to succeed in this realm. And a lot of times, this is one of the things I guard myself highly against. I guard myself against other people's ideas. I am very reticent against other people's ideas. Because it's so easy for me to be influenced by other people and what they tell me, especially when you hear the same thing over and over again. I find a lot of the things that people say over and over again to just be not true for me. And I need to really investigate, is this really true for me? And then I need to kind of like be a scientist and like try to enact it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then I'm done with it and I'm moving on. But the point is that through my business consultations with other people, I've been doing business consultations for a long time, and I'm a certified coach and training people. What I find is really that you just really need to figure out how to tap into that thing inside of you that's going to be that engine that once you get, you know, once you tap into that, you could step on the gas and go in as far and as fast as you'd like. Okay. And so, but what I find is sometimes people have said, like when the economy in 2008, 2009, when the economy really went bad, many people downsized, many people claimed bankruptcy, many people closed their business down. And I did the same thing at that time, and I reinvented it and started again fresh. And looking back on that a couple of years later, I realized that was a mistake for me. I shouldn't have done that, only because when you have something that's working and you're bringing in revenue and income and it's aged for some period of time, it's much better to just keep going and keep pushing, even if you lose a couple $100,000 a year, because revenue is the key factor in everything, especially residual revenue. And so I started over again, which, okay, I'm grateful that I was able to start over again and build up again and get things going and then sell that company. But I could have saved a couple of years of time for myself. So anyway, if anybody would like to know more and go deeper on this, I have several programs that I run. We run a couple of different masterminds. And of course, I do business consulting with entrepreneurs. And I have some seminars and workshops that are coming up that are free. If you just want to text me at the number above my head, and I'll put it in the chat, just text me the word DREAM, and I will send you the information about my next upcoming workshop, Dream with Your Eyes Wide Open, where we'll actually go over what those motivators are and the things that you can plug in for yourself so that you too could succeed at the highest level in all areas of your life. I mean, overcoming obstacles is something that we have to do. I mean, I wish that there was a way that somebody could just say, just tap into this one thing, my purpose, my why, whatever, and then everything is going to work out. It just doesn't work that way. There's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be challenges. People are always going to get sick. You're going to always have people that employees that you work with that are not going to do their job effectively. And I find really, I could tell you, I learned this from my first marriage. It took me 18 years to learn this in my first marriage, but we have basically 3 options in every situation. Number 1, we can work to totally accept the situation the way it is and just leave it in our lives. Number 2, we could spend all our effort and energy trying to fix, manage, and control the situation. Or number 3, we could just remove it from our lives permanently. And it took me 18 years to finally consider option 3 as option 1. And today, option 1 is remove that thing from my life, because if it's not working, it's never going to work, and I don't have time for it. So that's my talk. And I appreciate your time, effort, and energy. I wanted to be respectful of the time with everybody. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Eddie. That was amazing. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing all of that you did today about the work that you do. And again, you really touched on the fact that, you know, we have to be very flexible, and we have to know people that can help us. You know, sometimes if we can't do something, we can speed it up by finding people who can, and that maybe our path isn't always what we initially assume it will be, and that we need to be prepared to pivot and be flexible. Eddie, I love that you said, you know, as well about just the crux of it is to be more open, so that you can be creative and efficient and find the solution that you need in what you're doing, and guarding against others as well. I think is a very good point. You said that you guard against others' ideas, and I think, you know, it's good, as was mentioned several times today, about having the right people around you, you know, the right people that say the right things, and not hearing the messages that are not going to be helpful for you to be able to tap into yourself and bring out what's inside of you and what your true purpose is. So I love that you've put there that you've got free seminars for our audience to go and enjoy. That's amazing. And you've said to text the number. I wanted to say, is there a way that people internationally can contact you? Are you on WhatsApp, or do you want them to message you through Messenger, or is there any?
Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll put in the chat the information. They could just go to the site and fill out a form.
Excellent. That's amazing. So you have the website as well. So yeah, drop that all in the Facebook chat. That is brilliant. And then we can be sure that all of our global family here at Global Speakers Talk will be able to get in contact with you, which is amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you again for being here, and thank you for waiting so long to get up on our virtual stage. It has been an extraordinary afternoon, and we are still not finished. We do have our final speaker coming up to the virtual stage now. It is Ali, and Ali is joining us to talk about the topic. And Ali Levine is a certified breath work facilitator and a transformation expert. She's an intuitive stylist and media personality. She uses her ALI model, ALI method, to help clients shift from lower to higher vibrations and hold space for their awareness and healing through breath work and other exercises. Ali also founded the app Breathe and Be, that's B as in the letter, which helps users awaken and come home to themselves at a soul level. She teaches breath work to conscious women and mothers, and even to her own children. Additionally, as an intuitive stylist, Ali helps clients tap into their soul's design and come home from themselves through their wardrobe. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, Ali. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. This is such a powerful conversation. I have loved listening and being here. I just have to say, I love the work that everyone is doing here and sharing here. It is so needed, especially at this time in the collective. So I just want to start with so much gratitude just for getting to be here, be a part of this, and for everyone doing the work right now, whether you are speaking here on the stage or you are here listening or watching, you are a part of the ripple effect of what we need and what we are making the changes for. So thank you. So hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Ali Levine, and a little backstory about me. I've been a celebrity wardrobe stylist for 15 plus years in the Hollywood industry, and I am now a certified breathwork facilitator and coach. And going through a deep inner health journey and spiritual awakening brought me to this place. And I like to start with that because what we were kind of all saying in the stage today is that you get to change in every moment. You get to change in every second. You know, you don't have to be the same. Actually, you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to evolve by every moment as you move through in your life. And so when we start to realize the power that we truly have within us, that God gives us, that the universe provides for us, it all changes. And I really like to start with that because the woman you see before you now is not the same woman 6 months ago, a year ago, many years ago. And I know change can be kind of shown to us as scary. The narrative is painted as like, oh, it's something I don't want to do. It's maybe painful, it's confusing. But I want you to really have the feeling right now and the narrative shift of change gets to be exciting. Change gets to make me curious. Change gets to allow me to step into more of my awakening. And I truly believe where we are in the collective right now is a collective consciousness shift, a true awakening, waking up to who we truly are as souls. Yes, of course, we're here in the human flesh, but we are souls at the end of the day. And we have so much to offer each of us. And we all have so many gifts within us when we allow ourselves to tap into this. And this is where breathwork really showed up profoundly in my life. So I'll tell you a couple of stories about me. So as I mentioned, I've been a celebrity stylist for 15 plus years. And after a lot of people pleasing, chasing every single, milestone to hit in my career and checking every box, my soul was not feeling fulfilled. And I could not understand why. Clients were getting best dressed. They were getting every top magazine cover, you name it, it was happening for me. And I didn't understand why nothing was feeling fulfilling. And it was like this, honestly, it almost felt just so like surreal that all these clients were so happy. Everybody else was happy around me, but my personal happiness was not there. And my soul was truly feeling empty. And that was first really hard to digest and swallow. And instead of actually choosing to, see it and feel it, to move through it and make changes, I continued to push myself through, which I realized later in studying breath work and all the different work I've done, that's chronic stress. That's bringing more and more trauma into the body, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. And so I was there and I was doing that over and over again until I hit complete burnout and I no longer could show up. My body wouldn't allow me to physically, mentally, emotionally, and I was just in complete burnout. And then right around that time, I also became pregnant with my first daughter. And that pregnancy and that birth led me into a very traumatic event. I wanted to have a natural birth. I wound up in a 42 hours into a C-section, and all that trauma unearthed and brought up everything basically that I hadn't been dealing with. And from there, I was in a pretty heavy state of postpartum depression and anxiety. And if you've never been in that before, I don't wish it for anyone, but we've all been in dark times in our lives. And for me, it was definitely one of the darkest. I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was just stuck in darkness. So as I, went through this journey, I really wanted to understand why I was here and why I was stuck in darkness and couldn't get out. And it seemed like no matter what I did, I just kept backpedaling. So I hired some different help and spiritual coaches and different people in the holistic space who started really teaching me how to meditate and get grounded, which I know we've spoken about here. And meditation for me was honestly kind of the gateway to understanding another world of consciousness, understanding that we are more than our emotions, more than what we are feeling. And that was the first step into me just getting grounded and understanding that my body wasn't broken. My body wasn't fighting against me. I was actually, my ego and my mind was creating all the issues and storing all the trauma. And that's where my healing work began. But then fast forward, like most of us in 2020, I was in a state of panic and lost all of my tools. Nothing that I was doing was working. Cognitive therapy, meditation, all these different mind exercises were no longer working for me. And this is where breathwork really stepped in and changed my life, because I started breathing deeply and consciously and being taught how to do that on a regular basis and a real practice. And what I noticed immediately was, one, I was able to get clear on my emotions and actually feel them. Because what happens when we breathe consciously is we get out of the shallow nervous system and we move into a parasympathetic nervous system, which is actually the way we are born. We breathe deeply in the nose and out the mouth. We breathe into the belly and out the chest and out. And that is how we thrive. But most of us get caught up, of course, in a very busy world where we are just surviving and we are in a sympathetic nervous system, which is known as your fight, flight, or freeze. And you don't have to always be in freeze, but many of us are in fight. What I was speaking to with the flight of my chronic stress, of what I was doing in my career, that was constant chronic stress. And that was making my body be in overdrive. So it didn't feel safe to regulate. So once I started to feel safe and regulate my body, my emotions then started to come up. And what I like to say to my clients and to everyone in my community is your nervous system does not lie. Our ego loves to protect us, of course, and tell us stories and all these different things, but your body is your messenger. It is the divine channel. It does not lie. So when your nervous system actually has the chance to be regulated and reset and recalibrate, then we start to actually experience emotions. And I don't know if you guys know this, and put it in the chat if you do, because this blew my mind when I went through my training. You're meant to feel your emotions for 90 seconds. That's it. They're to be experienced for 90 seconds. And then, we are to feel, as I say, and then to heal and then shift it. So you're, of course, going to experience them. But we as humans, myself included, no judgment here, we hold on to them. We create stories around them. We're all wonderful storytellers, and they become a part of our baggage. It becomes part of our trauma, and the body holds it. The body, the cells, the fascia, everything gets stored, and we hold it. This can look like emotional weight. This can look like physical weight. I mean, I experienced all of it. I had a lot of weight gain when I was going through all my trauma release and my body learning how to fluctuate. I had a lot of energy loss because the body is holding all this. So even though we might tell ourselves in the mindset work, I've done this, I've released it, the body is saying, no, you haven't. And I'm storing it. And now that you're regulating, I'm starting to actually show you that I can release this. We can recalibrate and get you back to a regular reset nervous system. And so as I continued to do this in my own life and in the pandemic of 2020 and everything that was happening, I was also pregnant with my second daughter. So this became really profound for me to be able to continue to get grounded. So much so that when it came time to have her, I had envisioned a vaginal birth with her after a C-section, which is known as a VBAC. It's kind of one of those things that people like to tell you, it's probably not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up, but like you can try for it. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. But of course, with everything that happened in 2020, I was like, is my husband even going to be there? Like, what's this going to look like? Everything that I had believed and trusted and really felt I had manifested was just trickling away by the day, because everything was changing by the moment for us right at that time. So when I was brought into the hospital and, I was laboring, everything was going well. And then at the very end, she got stuck. And I just remember in that moment that fight, flight, or freeze immediately kicked in. Like it was just like that memory, and it came right back from my daughter's first birth. And it was like, oh, we're going to go to a C-section. Like, sorry, you tried. And I was so proud of myself that I had the awareness and the consciousness shift to start praying and breathing deeply. And I looked at my husband and I said, I need you to give me my music to put in my ears. I need to listen to my fear releasing playlist that I had put on my phone with my breath work. And I started anchoring the body and deeply breathing. And honestly, to this day, I don't know how to describe this experience, but I feel everyone can take what resonates and leave the rest. I swear I had an out-of-body experience. I felt like I was in the heavenly realms. God was with me. My angels were with me. I left my body. I heard everyone talking to me, but I was not there. And as I was breathing deeply and feeling into this experience, next thing I know, I heard push, and my daughter was there on my chest. And it felt like a true surreal miracle that she was there, all 9 pounds, 3 ounces of her that I wasn't supposed to be able to birth, at 42 weeks pregnant. And there she was on my chest, and I was in disbelief and I was crying. And I share this story because when we actually deeply breathe and consciously breathe, we breathe and birth and rebirth a new version of ourselves, actually the original version of who we've always been. We come back to the authenticity of us, and we realize who we are as a soul and the power and the gifts within us when we can actually get grounded and get out of this fight, flight, or freeze system and allow us to get back to that regulation and that true recalibration. And so when I'm, working with clients and I speak to the Alley method, Awaken the Light in You is what it stands for. I help you get conscious with your breath. I help you, understand what this coaching looks like, how we shift you from those lower states of consciousness to higher states. And for me, I have seen over and over again that when the mindset work can get kind of clouded, breath work continues to bring me home. You can come home to yourself through the breath, and it's literally free within you, in your body. I really believe God gave us the breath to thrive. Like, I know we need it to survive. We're not, we enter in when we breathe and we leave this world. The last thing we do is breathe. But I really believe this time that we are here physically on earth, we're meant to thrive through the breath. And the more we can get conscious that way, the more we can understand, and we can get into even deeper meditative states. We can get even deeper in these beautiful hypnosis states, all these different modalities that everyone talked about here. The breath just takes you that much deeper and ascends you that much further. And so it's changed my life in every single way. It's something I teach my family, my children, everyone around me, because I never knew, honestly, like I've always heard, take deep breaths, but put it in the chat if I'm wrong here. But when you're told take deep breaths, aren't you like triggered, like relax, take deep breaths? You're like, how am I supposed to breathe? Like you almost forget, what does that look like? And it's like, no, let's get conscious. Let's get still in the body. Let's come to a conscious place. It does not have to be intense. Actually, in my opinion, as a breathwork facilitator and someone who's trauma informed, I actually think it should be very slow breathing, especially to start, because your body has been in trauma for such a long time, one way or another. And in order to regulate and to feel safe, we need to do this very slowly to have the breakthrough. We don't need to push through and look for an answer. We have to trust the body's going to break down for us and allow us to move to the breakthrough. And let me tell you something, the mind doesn't understand it. The mind doesn't understand what's happening, but the body does it for you, and it releases the trauma. It allows it out. And then you're able to start to see clearly. And just so you guys know, you can't do this wrong. When you start breathing, you know, in your nose and out your mouth through different patterns, your neuroreceptors in the brain actually shut off within about a minute to 2 minutes, depending on the person. So once they shut off, the noise that you're hearing, the limiting beliefs, everything that was going on is now quiet. And the more you breathe, the more you access those higher states of consciousness, and you move up through the theta, theta, gamma waves all the way through, and you're able to get to those meditative states through the breath. So if we have a minute, I would love to just show you really quick what this feels like, because I feel like you need to experience it. So I just want to say, if you're driving, please come back to this part. Don't do this when you're driving or doing anything with heavy material. Just like to always preference that. But other than that, let's get grounded here for a moment. Just take a natural deep breath in. You can be sitting or laying down. Take a natural deep breath in and release. Take one more beautiful natural deep breath in and release. You can close your eyes or have your eyes be focused on one point on the wall. And I want you just to breathe in presence into your nose and breathe out any limiting beliefs, whether you're conscious of them or not. Breathe deeply into your nose, that presence, and slowly let out the limiting beliefs out your mouth. That's it. Deeply into the nose, breathing in presence and gratitude. Enjoy whatever you feel in this moment. Breathe it in and release. Deeply in the nose and release out the mouth. A few more. Deeply in the nose, out your mouth like an O. Again, drop the shoulders. Deeply in the nose, powerfully out your mouth like an O. This last one, I want you to really breathe it in, almost like you're sucking up through a straw from the bottom of your body all the way to the top of your head to the crown chakra. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out. All the release you need. And if you need an audible sigh to follow, just let it go. Let everything flow. And slowly come back to your heart space. Put your hands over your heart if that feels good, or one hand over the belly, one hand over your heart. See that beautiful white and golden light always there for you. Maybe put a smile on your face in gratitude. Thank yourself that you were present for this moment, and come back to the space. Beautiful, beautiful work. And if you did that with me, thank you so much. Honestly, it is that simple. Of course, I encourage you to go deeper and do a few minutes each day, a few minutes each time you're experiencing an emotion that you feel like you can't get out of. You absolutely can. And by returning to the breath, and not just returning to the breath, but getting conscious in your breathing and really feeling the in and out, you're going to notice how quickly your body starts to go back to regulating. It wants to return to the actual pattern that you were born with. And you will be able to access these higher states of consciousness as well, further and further. So thank you for doing that with me. I see there's a question. Is there a difference between straw-like breathing, heavy forceful breathing for the nervous system? Absolutely. Beautiful question. So of course, everyone does what resonates and feels good to them. I am not a fan of heavy forceful breathing from my own experiences of how it can re-traumatize the body. And because I have been coached and taken many certifications and have had so much information when it comes to trauma, that when we're doing heavy forceful breathing, especially if we have trauma in the body and we don't know we have trauma in the body, it can cause a lot more of a re-traumatization. That is not to scare anyone, that is just to have awareness. So what I always like to tell everyone is you have full body autonomy. Whether you're breathing with me or you're breathing with someone else, feel into how your body is feeling when you're doing this breathing. If the body starts feeling, overly anxious, or you start really like feeling out of control where you don't know what's happening, stop, find a point on the wall, find a color, find something that just calms you, and return back to your natural breath and break from that breath work. And then you can return if you feel good too. But this is why I like to teach people slow and steady, as they say, wins the race. I know for some people it can help to have a breakthrough in that moment. And I have seen that with clients as well, but it's not something I encourage consistently. I really encourage you to go from the root to the top of your head and in and out to really allow the body for it to flow. We're meant to be in flow. We're not meant to be stagnant. We're also not meant to be in force, right? This should be a flow state in our nervous system. So that's what I would personally encourage. And if you want to breathe with me, I have my own app, as was mentioned here, called Breathe and Be. It is free to download on the App Store and Google Play. And I would love for you to check out when you just go in there and you just sign up and you click begin, and you'll see the few breathwork exercises that are in there to get you started, 3 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. And I highly recommend, if you are wanting to start this journey, subscribe and join the subscription, and you'll get every month all new exercises I drop in there. There's over 20 exercises in there now, intentions, affirmations, meditations. My spiritual downloads and community is in there as well. And I'm also going to offer, being that it is Thanksgiving and a beautiful time in gratitude, a code if you are here that is going to be global. So that will give you 10% off my app if you choose to subscribe. So I will make sure that is active. And if you just want to write global in the chat, you can, use it and try it out. You also get a 7-day free subscription either way when you go into the app to subscribe. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain to help you become conscious, to start this breathwork journey. And if you want to breathe with me one-on-one or in one of my group containers, I also do full moon circles around breathwork and many different offerings. I'd be honored to have you and help you in your breathwork journey, because it has changed my life and continues to as a mother, an entrepreneur, coach. I can't say enough good things when it comes to becoming conscious with your breath. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. It's been our pleasure to have you, as it has with all of our guests today. Ali, that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I love the breath work you did for us at the end, and that you also have meditations available for free for some viewers, so for our viewers, and also that you have the subscription as well with the discount. So thank you so much for providing those things. I loved the fact that you were explaining about, the nervous system and how it reacts. And what really touched me was when you said, I can't do it wrong. Because, when anyone's starting anything new, there's going to be people that are like, oh, is that going to work for me? Try. Why not try? Like I said, there's nothing. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And we have to find what works for us. And what I love about today is the variety and the diversity of speakers. We're all speaking about the same topic, but there's so many ways for us to tap into finding our purpose, finding our true way of living, the way that we will feel comfortable, the way that we'll be able to access everything we need to know about ourselves to be the best we can be and to live the way we're always meant to live. And I'm just so grateful for every one of you, for everything that you've shared today. This is the kind of summit that needs to be watched, viewers, a second time. So you do have the replay. And for those of you who have missed any parts of it, there's been people jumping in and out. Please, I encourage you to watch all of it. Because again, you will not have anything to lose, because you will gain takeaways from what you've heard here today. Now, unfortunately, some of our guests have had to leave us at this late stage, and we're wrapping up our summit now. But I really I'm interested to know from the speakers today what your biggest takeaway was from another speaker. And I would also love you to share the one thing, if you can choose one pivotal thing that you want people to remember, to take away with them today from what you have shared, your voice and your truth today about. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
Ali, you want to jump in because you're already on stage?
Yeah, sure. So, everyone's speeches were incredible, but Nathan's really touched my heart, I have to say, when it came to the emotions, because and I think this is why I've become so passionate about breathwork and why I ended up going full throttle, to get certified and facilitate to others, because I did become my emotions. I brought them on so heavy that my, body manifested it. I believed it was, all of me. And I love that he said, instead of the I am, because I am is so powerful, it's I'm experiencing this. It's not even necessarily even just a feeling. It's just this is an experience, right? And when I spoke to with the nervous system and our emotions, how we're meant to experience them and feel them for 90 seconds, that just touched me what he had said. I was like, wow, it's so powerful when you have that reframe and you understand, like, this is not a part of me. I'm not actually meant to hold these, and I'm just meant to experience them like anything else. And when you can ride that wave, even though sometimes, of course, these waves are huge and very intense, we can understand that they're going to come back down, right? And so I just thought that was so beautiful and powerful, and also just how he spoke about, God and the spiritual realm, because I'm very much aligned. And I think at this time, of course, always take what resonates and leave the rest. But I think it's really important that all of us here, understand how powerful we really are and how we are, created by source, by God, and that you do have these gifts, because I feel like that's where we get stuck. I know for me, I was in such a victim mode until I realized I could become the victor of my life, which I also love that Nathan spoke to, of like how, like you are the one who is there to save you. Instead of looking for it outside of you, it's you, right? But it's coming back to the authenticity of you. And I think that's what I would want people to really take away here, is like understanding how powerful your nervous system is when you breathe, because the breath is life. It is, I truly believe it is like the most powerful tool we have within us. And then understanding that, like, you are meant to be authentically you, like that is who you are, your soul design blueprint. There is no one else. So when you come back to the authenticity of yourself, everything changes. Like my entire life changed when I recognized that. And I laugh because I've been a stylist for 15 plus years. I helped everyone else do that with their confidence and with their accessories, but somehow I wasn't showing up and doing that, right? And so when I did the work and I, got in there deep, sure, it was dark, but like Nathan said so beautifully, the light is on the other side and it shines so bright for you. And when you find yourself, you come home to yourself. So that's what I want everyone to take away from here. But yeah, everyone's speeches were absolutely beautiful. I just had to share that.
That's brilliant. Coming home to yourself. Really interesting. I also liked you talking about going from a victim to a victor. Really powerful stuff there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ali. I wanted to ask Eddie if he wanted to share one of his takeaways as well today, and tell us what he would like to resonate with everyone from what he's said. Are you there, Eddie? I'm going to come back to Eddie.
Yes,
Oh, you are.
technical hitting that unmute button.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I really appreciated all the speakers. Really, I got something out of everybody. I was glad to be here. I'm in good company. I really liked, especially being ready. The woman who spoke about being ready and being ready to go at any time. I really like that, because I think that's very true for me. Is I want to be ready at any opportunity that comes my way. So, and as a takeaway, other than that, I want to invite everybody to my Dream with Your Eyes Wide Open virtual seminar that's coming up in a week from now. Please go to the link I put in the chat or text me at 813-722-1417 and I'll send you the info. We're going to really discuss what those motivators are, those 7 motivators that help motivate each of us, that is already inside of us, that we can tap into and build a life worth of fulfillment for ourselves in all areas.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Eddie. That's great. I know that Dr. Constance, it's been a long time since you've been up on this stage. You've been listening to all the speakers. You opened our summit today absolutely amazingly. I couldn't get the word out. I didn't know what word to describe it, because it was incredibly powerful opening, and I can't thank you enough for that. What is your biggest takeaway from what you then heard? And please do define for us what you want the audience to take away from you.
No, thank you. I appreciated the opportunity to open up the day with the encouragement around all of the speakers who would follow me along the lines of personal development. I feel like our state of being, with the breath work, with the hypnotherapy, with our affirmations, with preparing ourselves for opportunities that come, I feel like it has a lot to do with what we feel on the inside, and even money. I talk a lot in my talks about financial well-being, not just tips, tools, and strategies, but financial well-being, which is also a state of being where you either have the confidence or not that you can handle your financial situations currently and in the future, but also how confident are you about your opportunity to enjoy your life along the way. And I find that oftentimes when we have experienced some kind of scarcity in our life or some kinds of challenges where we're not living our life to our best potential, that it does make you shrink and it does make you lose your breath. And I have had some medical issues around breath work. So I definitely appreciate Allie and even Nathan talking about how that all ties into you as a person, right? We all have our niches and the things that we do in service. But if you are not well in all of your ways, if you are not mentally well, emotionally well, physically well, none of this really matters now, does it? And so I love, love, love how we all have synergized to this place in time where we're able to share our own experiences and our passions. And even with the money aspect, you know, COVID really knocked the wind out of a lot of us in our workplaces and our homes and our businesses with relationships. It really did a number on us in how we show up in spaces, or if we even show up in spaces. And so when we think about thriving in life, we are the key players in that, and the money follows, right? As someone said, that money flows, our energy flows as well. And so there is no scarcity if your mindset is in the right position. There is no scarcity if your physical wellness and mental wellness is in its right position. And so oftentimes when I'm speaking with clients and they just can't wait for me to start, you know, checking off those boxes of the to-dos, but I often ask them these questions around their money story, how they feel about money, where did they first witness it, how is their experience now today, what do they want it to be, how do they model it before their own children and children's children. And so your state of being, even whether you're conscious of it or not, is being watched. And we can improve upon that. And that's why I am so blessed to have met these panelists, because it just lets you know that there are people actually helping and guiding you do the work that is required for you to win, and that is required for you to exist and thrive in this environment that we are. We call it post-COVID world, but we are able to thrive even in the ways of our physical, emotional selves. So thank you all for allowing me to share. Everyone has blessed me tremendously.
I actually agree with everything you said there, Dr. Constance. Yes, I feel that what we've had today is some true inspiration, motivation, explanation in some cases, and just things to take away with us today. So thanking everybody. I'm just going to say that for me, what I really took from every single one of you, I took many things, but what I noticed was running through all of you today was that you touched on people, and the way you touched on people, I always like to bring things back to people, because without people, we're nobody. Nobody is an island. We do need people. And you have all proved today that we are the person that we need to be there for us. So we need to be there to find our authenticity. Like Nathan was saying, you know, we're the key to finding it. But the people around us affect us too. So we have to guard against the ones that we don't want. And we have to do, like Dr. Constance said, we need to bring the ones forward that are there for us and that have done it. We need to follow their example. So all of you, bar none, mentioned that within the fact that either you talked about people in that respect, or the fact that you are a person that can influence that change, because we can't always do it ourselves. Let's face it, doctors need other doctors to do what they do. Everybody needs somebody else. Coaches need coaches. You know, we all need someone in our corner that knows what we don't know to bring the best out of us. Yes, we have the key to unlock it, but we need somebody else to help us to find that key, perhaps, or it's gone missing temporarily, but you get the idea. So that's really what I took. And obviously, you know that I work with children. I devoted my life to work in education with younger children and helping them to learn. And so for me, making sure that you mentioned that people need to be conscious of what we're saying and doing around our children, because we were those children. And if we've experienced trauma in our life, or we have had to change as a result of things that happened during our childhood, I'm not saying it's necessarily anybody's fault, but these things can happen inadvertently. And the more conscious we are of what we're feeling in terms of our emotions, like you've all talked about, and the more conscious we are about how we're we're bringing up our children and the things that we say, not just the children, but to everybody. Let's just be a little bit more conscious and help each other, because that's what it's all about. And you guys have been an example of that today by getting on the stage and helping all of us to learn a little bit more about ourselves and to go forward. And I haven't forgotten you, Nathan. I just did not want to follow you, my friend, because you speak so quietly, so softly. And I'd be like very quiet afterwards, like, well, join us next month for another summit, because you just make me want to relax and just be calm. So my friend, you have the stage. Tell us how you feel about what you would like to share and your takeaway today that you'd want to mention.
I think the beautiful thing is as Ali was talking about, this emotional resonance, this emotional conversation that was running through everything from start to finish. So really, when Carla was talking about those emotions, that number of emotions that we can pin a peg to say that's how we feel. And then how it kind of, you're looking at when we're doing that with the breath work, is really understanding, and Ali was talking about it, moving through that 90 seconds. Because they often talk about that energy emotion, that emotion, that is creating that energy emotion, but actually it's an it's an enabling motion. It's encouraging you to move through it, to let it move through you. And in order to do that, you really have to be present with that. You have to be present with yourself and then tend that wound. Because we do everything we can to protect that wound and cover it up with emotional bubble wrap and armor and shielding and all of these things to keep people away. But it's actually that wound that needs tending, not protecting. We need to go in and touch that tender place within inside ourselves. Because the wound is the way. That's where we win, is when we go into that place and we find our medicine is actually inside of the pain, so that we can move out of that. Because until we do that, until we hold that part of us, we can't do the dreaming with our eyes wide open, can we, Eddie? You know, we have to come back to that intuition. This is the first thing that we lose. And I'm going to share this. It's come from Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk from The Body Keeps the Score. One of the first things they found with PTSD was the children that experienced it most didn't have any imagination. They couldn't imagine a way beyond that. Yeah. But the reason they lose the imagination is because they lose touch with their intuition. They learn not to listen to the voice in their head, because they were drawing on they were checking out to see what the orange crayon looked like on the wallpaper, and then their mum or dad shouted at them and they stopped being creative. It wasn't safe to listen to that voice. And then the imagination goes, because you can't listen to yourself. And then the innovation goes and you can't take the next step forward. So you have to go back and hold that part of us and enable that energy to move through that got stuck so long ago, so that we can manifest, so that we can create, so that we can really embrace everything we're designed to be. This is the power of feeling who you are. You cannot know it until you feel it, and when you feel it, you can release it and you can heal it and you can come back stronger.
Wow, brilliant. I'm not going to say anything after that. I'm just going to say, take it away with you, friends. Watch it again. Rewind. Please let us know that you have. Please let us know our takeaways, because our speakers will be looking back in the chat. They will be interested to know. And if you do have questions, please pop them in as well. And hashtag replay to let us know, or hashtag live if you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you a million times, speakers. You were extraordinary. It's been my pleasure to share the stage with you today. And you have really, really helped me. And I hope that you've helped many, many people this afternoon, which I'm sure you have. Please do join us next month for our GST Summit number 35, and we will be doing it all again with another panel of guest speakers talking about a new topic. So until then, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for being here. Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye.